Probably.
All right, give me 1 sec. All right, here we go.
All right.
Wait. Here we wait. I don't know why this sets this up over here. Okay.
All right. So I'm doing Satanism. Need the cursor on this.
See that move the mouse over?
I don't think so. So
Bottom of it.
Satan was a word developed. It's like a Hebrew word, just means opposer. So the idea of Satan, like the image of this red guy with horns, and that was like third, fourth century. That's Holy Roman Empire stuff. In the Bible, he was described as, in the Old Testament, just a broad opposer, and then in the New Testament, like an actual, I wouldn't say person, but thing to like tempt. So in those days, there weren't serious Satanism accusations. It was just if you were not a Catholic, not a believer, you were uh, being corrupted by the devil. It wasn't like there was like cults that they were accusing people of. It's just you were the devil got you. That was it then. And then slowly as time went on, there was more accusations of witchcraft related. So members' characteristics. Unfortunately, not many of these cult-like characteristics would apply to the satanic cult. But theoretically, the cult member would turn themselves over for life, actually, like their entire life. Everything about them belongs to Satan and that cult, theoretically. The typical member would, well, have undying love for his satanic majesty and would be willing to basically give up all of their morals, abandon all morals to please him, to do whatever for the cult. Do they recruit? No one knows. Witchcraft. I know that someone in here is doing witches, but I feel like I have to talk about it briefly because it is the most famous branch of devil worshippers. So I would be remiss not to mention them. So basically, they just accuse a lot of women of partaking in like a witch's Sabbath, like dancing unclothed around a fire, chanting rituals. They would supposedly partake in brutal infanticide, and I'll leave it at that, and then cause turmoil to families. Yeah, about 40,000 to 60,000 women were executed, and this was during like about the high Middle Ages. So the Church of Satan. This is a man named Anton LaVey. He's quite the character. In 1966, he created the Church of Satan. He was an atheist. He didn't believe in Satan, but it was kind of like a joke. So the members are divided into two groups, the atheists and the supernaturalists. So the atheists don't believe in any of it, but they like to be an opposer. They like the rebellious nature of it. They like to go against conformity. And then there's the supernaturalists who do believe in that and they worship the devil. That also led to another like subdivision called the Satanic Temple. So the Church of Satan is described as kind of like this libertarian group that people should have the freedom to believe whatever they want. And the Satanic Temple is more of like a left-wing progressive group that basically believes the same things, but more like inclusion type stuff. I checked both of their websites. You can donate to them, and they preach empathy for others and doing what you please. He's interesting.
So Satanic Temple, that's an atheist.
For the most members of that are atheists, and they just like to be. And that kind of led to this mini movement of like metal, like they're anti-conformity, and they talk about 666 and Satan, and they didn't really believe in that. They just like to be a contrarian. So the Satanic Panic. So basically, the main accusations were of ritual sexual abuse of children at the hands of satanic cults. This was brought on by supposed repressed memories of victims recovered through therapy. Michelle Remembers was published, and that was basically about that, or like her memories and these accusations of like when she was a kid being involved with that. So this was this big thing in the 80s and the 90s. My parents remember this, like even in Helena, it was like a big deal. My dad said that the things that he remembers most was this movement to ban Dungeons and Dragons. So basically, I feel like a couple people in here have probably either heard of it or played it or something. Um, the families who tried to ban it thought that the people who played it were victims of Satan and victims of the cult and victims of everything. And it was it kind of mostly started with James Dallas Egbert III. He was a student at Michigan State. He would like to play Dungeons and Dragons underneath the dorms. There's like these tunnels under the dorms. He'd play Dungeons and Dragons with his friends. In 1979, he went missing. A private investigator was hired. They found him in the tunnels, and they learned he liked to play games down there. So they thought it was his disappearance was somewhat involved with the satanic cult, Dungeons and Dragons. In reality, he was attempting suicide. He was unsuccessful, but then a year later he was successful, and that private investigator later redacted his thought that it had to do with Dungeons and Dragons and the occult. He took that back. He said, "I never said that," but he did. So this was this whole big thing, and the United States and the United Kingdom both ran investigations into this with thousands and thousands of claims, and there was no evidence to support a larger cult that was doing these ritual sexual abuse of kids. So here are some real examples of devil worshiping people acting in the name of the devil. So that's Richard Ramirez. I know James is gone. He did Richard Ramirez, the Night Stalker, for crying. That's the pentagram on his hand. And then in the courtroom, he would do like the signs of the horns and then the 666. He would do that. So basically, most of his crimes were fueled by the need for money for drugs, but often he would carve pentagrams into victims and make them say things like they worship Satan. Beast of Satan is the only thing that involves a group that I've found. It was an Italian group that just killed people. They killed anywhere from 3 to 18. It's people. It's not confirmed, but they were working in the name of Satan. They call themselves Beast of Satan. And then Sean Sellers was this kid who tried to buy beer at a bar, and the bartender wouldn't give it to him. He killed the bartender, went home, killed his parents, and he said this was all because he was following Satan. This is what Satan wanted, and he had like a vial of blood around his neck at all times that he would drink from. Really sick individual. But those are just some examples of someone that you might think would be in a satanic cult. So some examples in movies, Rosemary's Baby. We talked about that in that class. The Roman Polanski film involves, well, a baby, so I don't have to go into that. I touched on that earlier. Annabelle, funny movie about a doll, but it was based off a true story. But in the movie, they explained it as the doll had demonic like characteristics because a satanic cult committed a murder and then killed themselves, and then some blood got on the doll. It was a pretty bad movie, but the story in real life is pretty interesting. The doll supposedly killed multiple people. Very interesting story. Longlegs, I'll touch on that later. It kind of takes all the fears of the satanic cult and puts it into one guy. And well, more than one guy, but for the most part, just all the thoughts of what this cult would do, they kind of just Nick Cage's character was like an example of all that. And in this movie, the devil is real, and actually he is acting for the devil and doing some pretty horrible things. And then The Witch, great movie. I don't know if any of you have seen the new Nosferatu movie. That director, this was his first film. It was, well, it's about a family who's isolated in the 1600s and taunted by the Witch of the Woods. And it has a scene with the devil, and they use the term witch and the devil worshippers synonymously in that movie. There's the witch's Sabbath scene at the end too. It's a pretty good movie. I actually really like that one. So here's this video. I'm gonna show parts of it just to show like how it was. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. This is just few. And downstairs is referencing Satan. Right, and then there is scene where he does reference Satan directly during the interrogation. Yeah, pretty creepy movie, actually. A lot of scenes in the movie, you could see this horned beast shadow behind the girl there. And when the movie goes on, you can see more and more of it. It's pretty good. Also, like talking about the mother, kind of reminded me of like the Cold War periods. Like it could be anyone, especially the family. So my evaluation: are there any satanic cults? You have to get this. No. Short answer, no. The cults. So, well, that's a short answer. The long answer is there was evidence to support isolated incidents of individuals who did horrible things with kids in the name of Satan, but it was never in a ritualistic cult manner. It was just horrible people who would do that. All a bunch of horseradish, baloney, whatever you want to call it. Yeah, it's. I mean, sexual abuse of children is a real issue in religion. Lots of religions, but Satanism is not one of them. So do with that what you will. Sources, there's that.
Very good.
The end.
Any questions on?
Oh, yeah. Any questions?
And Anton LaVey, but that was never like really a cult.
No, that's just a, people would say they're a Satanist. Like almost no one, like there is some temples that no one goes to. It's not a thing. I mean, if you want to call it a cult because they ask for donations and yeah, but that's about it. But not a big thing. It's mostly a joke. Most people who follow it are.
Yeah, it's like the rarely. All right, good. Nice, good start. And my wife who grew up in Hello would talk about they thought the satanic worshipers were at the court.
Yeah. And then my dad said in the cave in Mount Helena, that's where they all did their rituals.
Or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good story. When I was in college, I had someone was so convinced that everyone was a devil worshiper, tried to get me to quit listening to music because it was all satanic. And I mean music, you know, like I was listening to like the Beatles, that was satanic. And I'm like, how did you know? Okay, moving on. Who would like to go next? Oh, Chris was gonna go, but he's gone. Chris, did you have your turn again? No, I did forgot. Tomorrow, but we got, yeah, Andy, I got yours somewhere. After the show yesterday, I was gonna start setting people up, but the ending of that video is always kind of gets, and I wasn't really thinking at the moment. But it's gonna work out. Give me 1 sec. Mouse there?
Huh?
I did leave the mouse there. All right, go.
Okay, so I did Heaven's Gate, and then at the end, I have another thing on just like other cults. There we go. So the founders are Marshall Applewhite, but among the cult members, he was known as Doe, and then his wife Bonnie Nettles, or T. They originally met in 1972, and they grew really close because they were convinced that they were the two end time witnesses mentioned in Revelations. So that was like time, and they just had like a lot of similar beliefs about UFOs and whatnot. So they just clicked really fast. And then the goal was also called like among each other human individual metamorphosis and or Bo and Pete and total overconfidence. So characteristics and core beliefs of the cult, they strongly believed in UFOs and extraterrestrial life. And that they and the other cult members were actually extraterrestrial life, but trapped inside like human vessels. And that you could graduate to the next level, which was basically just leaving your human body into your real extraterrestrial body. But doing so, it was believed you would have to commit suicide. And they believed that there was a UFO following the Hale-Bopp comet, and that's where their true extraterrestrial forms actually were. So some of their rituals they called atoning, which was basically where they would like make sounds with like a toning prong, and you would have to focus kind of on that sound while trying to do other tasks, and that was like kind of their ways of kind of getting to like the next level, but not really graduating. They also strongly believed in celibacy, and one of like their rituals, along with the whole celibacy thing, is like some members would often like castrate themselves. Marshall, he did that. He strongly believed in that, so encouraged it among the other members. So they typically wanted for recruiting, they wanted really gullible people who were pretty lonely and would kind of just believe everything they said. It was pretty crazy stuff. So you had to be really gullible. They wanted, people who were willing to completely cut off ties from their entire family. And they also wanted asexual people because of, again, like the whole celibacy thing, because they didn't really believe in human pleasures. So how they would recruit is typically through newspapers, like they would run ads or they would pass out like flyers at like gatherings. But later into like the early 90s, they created a website, just the Heaven's Gate website, which is actually still up, which is pretty interesting. And then sometimes they would give public speeches. One of their most successful was in September of 1975 in Walport, Oregon. They got a couple of people eventually like reached out, like interested in joining the cult. So they got like usually weren't crazy successful. That one I think they only got like 9 new members from. So some popular characteristics, again, was their UFO theology, that there were, in fact, UFOs and that they actually belonged on those UFOs. They strongly believed in the detachment from human life, kind of that they were better than humans and that really, like, you shouldn't have to really go through human pleasure because we're not humans anyways. And then they had a lot of strict rituals and, like, rules, like you had to wear the same clothing as everyone else. There was really no individuality. You had to go through the same morning, evening routine. However, they did strongly believe in like leader worship, like Marshall and Bonnie were like above everyone else, and they heavily encouraged, that belief that they're better than you, and you kind of have to worship them as better. And then so they had the charismatic leader, Marshall. He was pretty good speaker. He was like, was able to get all these people to join, and he was like usually pretty friendly to the members, like friendly like to the members in the cult. But they also, they focused on stress. They were like, all of these stresses, they're not real anyways. It's kind of leading into like the reduced stress problems to one solution. It's that you're actually an extraterrestrial life form trapped in this human body, and really all you need to do is eventually kill yourself to get rid of all the stresses. They heavily encourage the turning yourself over to the cult, the cutting off ties with the entire family. You didn't really need anyone else but them and the other members of the cult. And, they would kind of give you this new, like, identity, again, like an extraterrestrial life form, like that's who you were. And, you weren't really the person before. So the final outcome, they committed mass suicide on March 26, 1997. But it took the course of about 3 days. Because how they would do it was they would have people, like 15 people would like take a bunch of drugs, and then a mix of drugs, and then they would tie like plastic bags around their heads, and then other members would kind of like keep the bag around their head and eventually like lay a tarp over them. And then once that 15 died, then it was the next 15. And then after those 50 died, then it was the final 9. And because they believed like it followed the closest like Hale-Bopp, like as close as it got. They decided that had to be when they did it. And after the suicide, the website read Hale-Bopp brings closure to Heaven's Gate. I don't even, when I was looking at the website, I didn't see that message anymore because there is a belief that there are still like 2 members, like kind of like distant members who weren't part of like the house in like the Rancho. Well, it took place in Rancho Santa Fe, California, was where the suicide took place. And there's belief that there was 2 members who weren't there who still update the website every once in a while. Like you can still find their book and whatnot. And then for like personal anecdotes, I found on 2020 they had like a section where they were like giving like anecdotes from people like before the suicide, like after they actually made.
There it goes.
Yeah, so like they believed like this, like leading to the Hale-Bopp comic, it was them going home, like graduating to their final form.
We'll just look at this and see.
And that was the final outcome. And then this was the other cult I had mentioned.
Sorry, there we go. Okay.
Yeah, so then this is the other cult I was just gonna do a quick thing on. It's just a single slide. So among like cult members, they're called the Fellowship, but the FBI calls them the 2x2s. I just wanted to do like a quick thing on this. This was a cult my friend had grown up, and they moved out about a couple years ago. And then so it's kind of referred to as a secretive Christian sect. And they are like, there's not really much known about them, really, like from what I can gather from my friend. It's just these like different groups across the country who just kind of believe they're better than all the other Christians. There are a lot smaller groups. They heavily look down upon anyone who's not part of these groups. They strongly discourage any communication with people outside of the group. And once you leave, you're like completely excommunicated. And they're currently under investigation for child abuse. That's why like my friend's family eventually leaving the cult, and it's kind of believed that that's why they heavily discourage communication with people outside of the cults. They also encourage polyamory for some reason. I think that's like why a lot of people have fled to the 2x2s, is because they could often get away with these things. They were really strict on like they had a bunch of like random rules, like they heavily limited the types of foods children could eat. They also limit like what kind of music you could listen to, no tattoos. You couldn't really wear any unique clothing. It kind of had to be the same bland basic colors. And like I said, they limited contact with the outside world, and like they really tried to push limitation of education for the children in the cult. Like they heavily encouraged homeschooling. They didn't really want any public schooling. And if your kids were in a public school, they would like other members from the cult would constantly try to like get you to take your kids out. And yeah, they are still currently under investigation.
Are there any groups that live in Montana? Were they in Montana?
I don't remember where, like my friends don't remember too much about it because they're like, it was secluded.
And their family left.
Oh yeah, no, they left because eventually they were just like, this is kind of weird because their dad was he was a Navy vet, like was pretty like the rest of the cult didn't really like him because he had a lot of tattoos and whatnot. So they didn't like him, and eventually they just left.
And one more thing, did Applewhite do anything financial exploitation for them?
I couldn't find like a whole lot of financial exploitation outside of like, he would constantly try to like push his book on people and whatnot. But I couldn't really find a whole lot on financial exploitation.
And he did make them turn over their money.
Yeah, it was like, like the turning, it was a lot of like turning over yourself.
Yeah, so he turned over the money, yeah.
Yeah.
And you couldn't find a video of him?
I couldn't find the one that like that really popular picture of him. I couldn't find that one, like not that the school would let me have access to. Yeah.
All right, good job. Feeling very good. All right, so since I totally forgot to say this yesterday, we have a we get a few more in. Britt, would you mind going today? You sure? Okay. Has anybody else turned in their presentation? Let's do it. That's all right, totally forgot, I was just out of it after that, Period. Give me about 20 seconds to get yours. What did you turn it into?
What are we supposed to turn to
On
the,
Teams?
yeah, to the cold presentation?
I'm sure it is.
I just turned it in like at the beginning of class. That's why I had my computer out.
Perfect,
I was gonna do it during group.
perfect, no problem. Just gotta reload it. It's coming, it's coming. That one a little happy science.
It's super weird, but it's not weird in like a cult kind of sense. Like the fact that it's labeled a cult is kind of strange to me.
Give it a second.
Okay.
Just give me one sec. Okay, go.
So I've had Happy Science as my, I would so say, cult quotations. So the beginning of the cult, first of all, the leader, Ryu Hokawa, was formerly a wealthy Wall Street trader. He also was a writer. He wrote many mind and spirit philosophies, such as The Law of Eternity, The Gold Path, and The Golden Law. He believed himself as a higher power, um, such as like a god or spiritual being. Like he referred to himself as, I think it's pronounced El Canter or something like that. And that's a power that's supposed to be higher than like Jesus, God, Confucius. It specified in some extraterrestrials. Um, so it started out as a religious movement founded in Japan in October of 1981. It has Buddhism, Christianity, and New Age beliefs. That's mostly what it's composed of. But the cult also has a lot of political like influence as well. They have a very strong nationalist standpoint, which is important because it is mostly it's like a mix of religion and politics. They're very big on their politics, but it's only in Japan. It doesn't really get out of Japan. And it was a well advertised thing. It caught lots of public attention. It was very wealthy. They had lots of institutes. And because of that and all the politics, the whole point of the Happy Science cult was to establish a government under his spiritual teachings and beliefs. That's what their goal was in the political standpoint of it. And it expanded very much. It has over 100 branches in, branches in over 100 countries. They have public divisions. They have schools like the Happy Science Academy and the Happy Science University, where you can go and learn more about all this stuff. And then the political wing part of it is called the Happiness Realization Party. It promotes controversial views, including support for Japanese military expansion and denial of Japanese historical events such as the Nanjing Massacre. It has temples and worldwide, and they're sacred places where you can expand on your faith and your love deepening for yourself and all that. So the characteristics and core beliefs, I just kind of went over that the first part. The primary focus of the group is about love, self-love, wisdom, self-reflection, and self-progress, making it a very philosophical cult. And and I went over the last part as well, the leaders members see him as a supreme being from another planet. That is a huge thing. He is the one and only, the leader. They worship him very, very intensely. So they're basic, if they're not really rituals, they're called teachings. That's what they call them. They call them basic teachings. There are four core principles in which members are expected to nurture love, wisdom, self-reflection, and progress, like I mentioned before. And the members of the Happy Science have to attend seminars to increase their social hierarchy status. That is what it's for. So the ideal members were, they really wanted people who had the aspiration to discipline and seek the truth and actively contribute to the realization of love, peace, and happiness on the earth. His teachings, kind of going back to the together, but his teachings cover topics mostly about enlightenment, prosperity, and especially the afterlife because they were so religious. They teach about heaven and hell, where the good and bad are separated. They teach that life is eternal and that reincarnation is a fundamental aspect of existence. It encourages individuals to live virtuously to ensure a better future life, being reincarnated and things like that. So yes, he emphasizes personal growth and the development of a strong spiritual self and the importance of belief in divine guidance. Like I said, he blends all those religions together. He promotes the idea of reincarnation and karma. That's where the Buddhism comes from. And it's faith and wisdom is very, very important in these teachings and what members want for themselves. And so the recruitment techniques, I couldn't really find a whole lot of information about like the recruitment techniques. They were very aggressive about them though. And they did a lot of public speeches. That was mostly what they were known for, but also because they had such a political influence in Japan, they were also known for their political views as well. So they gave lots of speeches and they were just very present everywhere in Japan. They had a very strong influence on the people in a lot of ways. And when COVID-19 came around, they claimed to have had like the cure for COVID-19, which like got a lot of people because they fed on really gullible people at the time that were fear of the pandemic and what was going to happen. They preyed on those kinds of on the gullible of COVID-19, and their realization party also got them a lot of attention. So the popular characteristics, a lot of the members are often extremely religious and they tend to follow their beliefs pretty strongly. A lot of the members are also insecure and afraid, and they want to join this cult to seek kind of comfort and validation to connect with the universe, because this cult is all about connecting with yourself, but they kind of take it to like a whole other level. So I couldn't really also find much about people because not a lot of people have left this cult because they don't like it. Like, it has a lot of members. I think as of right now, there's probably a little over 1,300 now still in Japan, and there's 11 million members worldwide in this. So, but there was an actress who retired from her entertainment job, and she enrolled full-time in Happy Science to partake in that. But the leader's son, Hiroshi Okawa, left the movement, and now he's one of its most outspoken critics. He believes what his father does is absolute nonsense, and that it's ridiculous, and he would be the one to describe it as false. But no one else has really described it as a cult that I can find, at least. And they have a website It's still up there. It seems pretty basic, honestly. Like there's all their books, like it like flips through things of like their books and their teachings and the schools. And if you were to look at the website, you would honestly have no idea that that's kind of like false. It looks just like your normal everyday website, or if you wanted to go find advice about religion or how to get involved in this.
They weren't. Sure. Is it okay? Look, can you think?
Yeah.
Let me see.
You can
Give me
go
a
right
sec.
to it.
Here. Ah. Are you visiting from the US? Should we go to the US website? Yes or no? Let's do it.
It didn't ask me that question when I went on there.
Oh. Laws of the sun?
El Cancer, that's this high power being that's who he described himself as.
And then we have all our books.
They have a social media presence. They have a very strong online presence.
They know how to recruit people today, that's for sure.
After you die, what awaits you? There's some of their
It's
what I was
conference or.
yeah, like a conference. They get like a lot of public attention. And oh, and you can donate too.
Ah, there we go.
Yep.
Now, when you join, is there any financial exploitation? You have to pay anything to join?
Oh yeah, they financially exploit people. That is
Oh, yeah.
probably the most prominent feature of making this a cult was the financial exploitation, and not necessarily within the like religion or the cult itself. It was more of like the political part. And when he was a formerly like a wealthy Wall Street trader, so he was doing all sorts of things with money even before he started this religious movement. But he took advantage of people financially and exploited them mostly financially, but a lot of people didn't even realize that. And I would just say, in conclusion about this cult, as I was looking more into the cult, like I was confused at first. I couldn't really see how this was a cult. Mr. Partridge told me that it gets worse, but I couldn't really find how it got worse. But the more I started reading into the philosophy standpoint of this cult, I started to see how that could be labeled cult-like. So aside from everything else, I would label this as a philosophically moral cult, because as somebody who's very passionate about philosophy, reads a lot of it. Philosophy is not used to manipulate people and exploit them. That is the exact opposite of what it's intended to do. And that is like the whole base of happy science is spiritual and religious philosophy. And their beliefs and their morals stem from like dualism, that the mind and the body are separate, but yet they interact with each other. Idealism, that reality is fundamentally mental or spiritual rather than a physical thing. And then existential ethics, you can make your own values and morals for your own life. But philosophy is used to clarify your thoughts and to help society understand good or bad. They use works from Nietzsche and Immanuel Kant about heaven and hell, good and bad. So I thought that was really interesting because I was able to kind of connect these and like see how they were kind of manipulating and abusing philosophy to exploit other people and to basically just like kind of brainwash them into this such extreme beliefs. And I just noticed that like this philosophy, that's not what we use philosophy for. So this is a philosophical, strange cult rather than like what you would think of a cult as like a sick behavior, killing, strange. It's a little different. So I thought that was really cool, actually, the more I read into the philosophical part of it.
That's really good. Yeah, that whole hierarchy kind of goes against a lot of the philosophy.
Yeah, they would like strip away the
they like selectively interpreted like the Eastern and Western traditions of philosophy. Like I said, they were using like Nietzsche and Immanuel Kant and their good and their bad, heaven and hell, slave versus master morality kind of thing. They kind of looked past like the whole point of those philosophies to fit their narrative. And I thought that was just kind of crazy. So
Sounds like a good one. Glad, any questions on this one? Yeah, they're really interesting. Let's go on.
So, earlier in your presentation, you said it was like pretty much only in Japan. So, but then you said they have like 11 million members worldwide. So is it like only like a political organization in Japan, and just like not political elsewhere? Or like how do the 11 million members that like are in Japan worldwide, like how do they interact?
there's temples and academies, but what I meant was like the political is only in Japan. Like they don't really go outside of Japan with their political. But yes, like the Happy Science has over 11 million members worldwide that follow and have memberships and go to temples and universities and stuff like that. So that's
All right, good job. I'm glad you really enjoyed that.
Happy Science.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a really interesting one. And they got all the elements, but it's not like, you know, Heaven's Gate or People's Temple. They're not popular. Even though People's Temple kind of sounded at first kind of. I mean, everything. No one thinks you're joining a call. I think it's such a good line. All right. So who wants to go tomorrow? Raise your hand. You got 1, 2, 3. You're first? Yeah. Okay, you're second. Let me know. First, second, third. Who else can go tomorrow? No volunteers? Volunteering? All right, we'll get a little imperial call. And then. Did you guys go together? Let's do right away Thursday first. And then paper tomorrow. Anybody else? Make sure you turn that in. I need your papers. Good job today. Thank you. Well done. These are good. I'm really fascinated with these. I like them. And I like how people got good. Presentation. Good job.
So
I'll go, yeah. Nothing more pleasant than going to school with a headache. Teaching's not with a headache. Yeah. Richard. Oh, yeah. Oh, I remember that, yeah. What was it called again? Shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it's, did you ever find that Muppet Show?
I didn't look at like.
Yeah, it was weird. That was funny. I forgot about that. I mean, it's more just weird.
Like it.
Yeah, I remember that. They'll look back to them. Yes, I know you. Realize. I stayed with y'all to me. God. Yeah, let's.
It's like a
But are we gonna? But they. We can do challenges, but it's okay.
that's not Jesus.
Chicken. The babies. And. Yeah, we want to figure. But the other things, they survive, they want to make that. You know, that's something that I think you can figure out. I'm like, that's what you guys, I believe in you guys, but you're supposed to read your mind facts. No, streaming may really just. All who needs is.
Terrorist like block clock.
You're sounding a lot like a Jehovah's Witness to the people leading some of which I used to. Like I had a friend who was a Jehovah's Witness and I think they believe that was looking at super old and very similar, like it's like an anagram, it's like. And it's the same thing. I'm not glad in such a place, even I do.
You have to pay for CNN.
That's crazy. You should be pretty good. It's a lot. That's another thing. But we never saw it. That's like.
I saw.
Bye, everybody. Hey, 10-year treasury yield went down again. Yay. Ralph wants to be cheering.
Oh, sorry.
But
Oh, sorry.
I did cheer. I missed like you. All right, clear out you, Marty. I'm always waiting for you three.
I also forgot to mention, they say Tenet came back temporarily for like a year when Harry Potter came out.
Oh, I remember
They were like,
that.
oh, they're teaching the kids. But that's not what's happening. Kids are being taught.
Good job.
Oh, sweet.
Take over. I'm too much Connie Manning.
You're gonna teach you class.
Let's take over. So Connie Manning. Good. Good luck on out here.
Yeah.
Going home. I'm down in the pro.
Oh,
This
I talk
one.
about the Italian bread, please.
Yeah.
For real.
You're talking about satanic panic, didn't you? It's really amazing.
I've been thinking about the Italian bread all day.
You know what? Well, I think it's a lifetime. Hey, now, what made us do grammar and math? All right, I'm with it. Simple physics. Are you excited for today? We're gonna be out of snow, aren't we? Yeah. I was really worried it was gonna be icy this morning. It wasn't. Tiny bit. Oh, Dennis Rodman.
Yeah.
That went to college with, went to junior college, played basketball with him.
Really?
Actually, he didn't play basketball. He didn't play basketball. He went to junior college, he didn't play in high school. Robin didn't play in junior college. He was just a really tall guy.
Yeah.
The coach recruited him. And then they moved on to different smaller schools. It's amazing.
Yeah. Start. I saw like 3 different apps that gave like 3 different things per day. They believe that they missed some school. Or at the start of the world.
So you saw 3 different maps.
I saw one.
Oh, isn't that amazing?
It was.
So did you remember yesterday in class, I said that Italy tried some
Yeah,
guy?
that's why it was central.
No,
allies.
So what is
They
it?
did ally.
There we go.
Well, I wasn't, because I saw more maps than me that said. That's why I was just.
That's why the internet cannot be trusted.
I didn't get that. Also,
But yeah.
Italian. I mean, should only cause an acid.
Who?
It's Italian. Yeah, it's like, I don't care, it's central power. Like,
I'm gonna.
So in Italy, they know as much as Americans know about it? He could have been nice to you.
What for us?
He's happy.
You know, it is.
Oh.
Like, I'm.
Okay.
You're gonna run out of here?
Yeah.
Springtime.
Like not getting fixed.
We'll make it do it again, people out there.
I didn't do anything.
Oh,
No. Yeah, even you look.
Yeah. I thought you.
I know, yeah, Lucy needs to fall in June.
I thought you.
I, you know, yeah, I understand it, but it's.
Exactly.
See, this time it's just all, yeah.
When I got it, they
But then they.
Wait, oh, you still.
We already got
did our shit.
Stink too bad. It wasn't bad, it was bad, it's fine, my dinner ball, you didn't
Wake up, you're dead, you're like.
Right, so
That's why it's.
let's go ahead and take our notes. Tomorrow we have to set up the killing zone. Today, total war.
It's not bad, just.
Really big one, big deal, one of the most important events in world history. And we have so many people gone for some science thing. You know, from now on, whenever you say science, use quotes. Quotes. I actually very much like. No science here, nothing to do with it. Give me.
Ron
James.
James. Yeah, Ron James.
Ron James Shorty.
Oh, dude.
Not even close.
You already know neighbors, because I think I might have forgotten. You already know, you see those flowers?
Let me look, that's great.
Okay, because I think I might have forgotten.
It's interesting to remember now.
Oh, yeah. I forgot stuff, and then we go to Mason, I was like, wait, how I did that, so.
I'm graded, I think first and third, but not fourth and fifth.
Okay. Cool.
Every bird of Ron did, so.
Huh?
Every bird of Ron.
Fine.
Like, you are, this is, that's it.
All right, so let's go take your notes out. This one, take your notes out. Bert was the best player I've ever seen in about 3 years. But but when he hurt his back, he just couldn't keep going. He was so amazing.
Well, like.
That's back when 84, 85, 86, he won. But don't forget something, I'm old.
Look, Kyrie or KD.
No, Durant.
Kyrie. Kyrie.
Medium. Okay. So, one more thing really quick. So today you might have noticed, I was just actually watching a little clip of the news report. And it had, at a car shop, an auto dealer. And if you know anything about the way they make cars, it crosses the border between the United States and Mexico and Canada all the time. Pieces, bones go back and forth, because it used to be free and wide open. And so there's some of the GMC pickups, big massive trucks, you know, whatever. This price yesterday was $80,000. Do you know what they had to change to this price of it this morning to? 100,000. Why? Why? Yeah, so a weird fluke in law in the United States about 50 years ago. A law was passed to basically allow the president to declare a state of emergency, and they can adjust the tariffs to match this emergency. The idea being there would not be enough time to go to Congress, get the law. So that gives the president a great amount of latitude. President Trump has declared an emergency because of fentanyl and immigration, and put a 25% tariff on all goods from Mexico and Canada. Did it this morning. So we announced it last night, so it took effect this morning. And what that means is everything that crosses the border is going to go up dramatically. So what's every company that sells something, they're raising the price of truck. So even though the price of that truck on their lot did not go up $20,000, they're just raising it. You remember when I talked about tariffs way back, the nullification prices? Once they pass a tariff, that's an excuse to raise prices. Wait till you see the price of produce. It's gonna blow your mind. How much it's gonna fall. Yeah,
Okay, so housing is steadily into straight.
potentially, yeah, because the United States is about 70% of its political. So housing prices, you put a 25% tax on it. But it's 25%. It's the tax is paid by whatever importer in the United States, and then they pass the tax up. So basically, all Americans are gonna get a tax increase. Let's say this goes on for a full year, it'd be about $2,000 to $2,500 tax increase for every family. Yeah, it's one of the biggest tax increases in history of the rest of the country system for working people. Rich people, it'd be a tiny percent.
That, increase the value of listed cars and passive. Those, and this is other things, I think it doesn't like it's going like.
Maybe a little bit on used cars, but cars depreciate in value so fast, they won't keep up. And once you buy a car, literally buy a car, it goes down in value about 4%. So. Yeah, if you know anything about cars, it goes down in value immediately. And so it won't keep up. Now, it depends on how long the tariffs are, and some companies might try to eat those losses, but most can't afford it, so they have to pass on the tax. So that means it's a really big deal. This is a big deal. And then you see with prices of everything up, you're just gonna notice it. I mean, literally within a week, you go to the produce section and it'll be shocking. That's something that people will notice. And the yield curve is getting worse, but let me show you one thing. I just saw this and it just kind of blew my mind. It was so interesting that I hit it. Where'd I put it? Yeah, right here. Oh, no, this is it. This is not it. All right, so everyone, let's go take your notes out. Let me find what I was looking for. Yeah, here it is. Here we go. This is just amazing to me. So the Federal Reserve tries to keep track of the size of the economy, and they try to keep they try to guess going through the consensus figures. And here is 0% growth to GDP. And this was consensus. Other economists, they're always about a month and a little bit more than a month behind. So it's about 2% growth. And they thought in early January, maybe this is the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta, up to about 3.8% growth. And the economy was doing really, not a lot of inequalities and problems, but the economy had really steady growth in the really good growth every year. So pretty strong economy. Okay. So. Look what happened. The expected growth. Now the Federal Reserve Bank of Atlanta saying, the last I saw, this stops at 1.8, now it's a shrinkage of the economy in the first 3 months of 2.8%. That is what we call a recession. That's called a crash. I don't know if it's gonna happen, but wow, was that shocking. It happened so fast. So that's my little economic story for today. Obviously, I follow this and we have a lot of history to cover, so I know we can't go over every detail, but it's actually kind of remarkable how fast it happened, about a month.